Okay, so you want to own a cruise ship. Build the vessel, fill the cabins, watch the passengers walk up the gangway. But here is the strange part. A modern cruise ship is one of the most capital-intensive consumer products ever built. Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas, delivered in late 2023, cost approximately $2 billion to construct. It is the largest cruise ship in the world, carries up to 7,600 passengers, and required Royal Caribbean to borrow roughly $1.8 billion just to take delivery of it. You would think a $2 billion ship would print money. The cruise industry carried a record 34 million passengers in 2024 and generates well over $50 billion in annual revenue. The ships sail nearly full year round, and the average passenger spends around $2,000 per cruise across tickets and onboard spending combined. And yet, the entire global cruise industry is controlled by just 4 companies. Carnival, Royal Caribbean, MSC, and Norwegian collectively own 78.9% of all deployed berth capacity worldwide. Independent operators have almost completely disappeared over the past 3 decades. Owning a cruise ship as an independent business is essentially impossible. This is the story of how the industry consolidated into one of the tightest oligopolies in modern travel. Why the actual product is not what most people think it is, and why the math punishes everyone except the few players large enough to absorb the costs. To understand why cruise ownership consolidated, you have to understand the capital requirements. A modern mass market ship carrying 3,500 passengers costs roughly $800 million to $1 billion to build. The new generation of megaships costs closer to $2 billion. Icon of the Seas cost about $2 billion. The Wonder of the Seas cost roughly $1.4 billion. Carnival's Mardi Gras, about $1 billion. These ships are built in just a handful of specialized shipyards, primarily in Italy, Germany, France, and Finland. Perhaps 6 or 7 yards in the world can build modern cruise vessels at scale, and the construction timeline runs 3 to 5 years from order to delivery. The order book now stretches into the 2030s because demand from the major lines exceeds what the yards can produce. The financing is unusual. Cruise companies do not pay cash. They use export credit agency loans, where the government of the country building the ship guarantees most of the loan. When Royal Caribbean took delivery of Icon of the Seas, built at the Meyer Turku shipyard in Finland, it borrowed roughly $1.8 billion through a term loan guaranteed almost entirely by Finnvera, Finland's official export credit agency, amortizing semi-annually over 12 years. This structure exists because cruise ships are so expensive that no normal commercial bank would lend the full amount. Shipbuilding governments provide the guarantees to keep their yards employed. The cruise lines get cheap long-term financing. The yards get steady work. It has been the only way to finance ships of this scale for decades, and construction is just the start. Crew payroll runs into the tens of millions per ship per year. Fuel runs another 15 to 30 million. Port fees, provisioning, maintenance, insurance, and marketing add hundreds of millions more across a fleet. The capital requirements are so high that the industry consolidated around the few companies that could finance and operate at scale. The structure was set by the math of building $2 billion ships, not by any deliberate strategy. Once you understand the capital structure, the revenue model is the next puzzle. Most people assume the ticket covers the cruise. The fare includes your cabin, the buffet, the main dining rooms, the entertainment, the pool. For the passenger, the ticket feels like the whole transaction. The financial reality is different. Across the 3 major publicly traded cruise companies, ticket sales account for roughly 66 to 70% of revenue, and onboard spending makes up the rest. Royal Caribbean's 2024 results show passenger ticket revenue of $11.5 billion and onboard revenue of $5 billion, a 69 to 31 split. But that split understates onboard spending because of margin. Ticket revenue is sold competitively. Lines compete aggressively on advertised fares, and travel agents take 15% commissions. The headline fare is deliberately low, barely covering the marginal cost of carrying that passenger. Onboard revenue is captured at far higher margins. The drink package that costs the line about $5 per passenger per day is sold for $60 to $80. The shore excursion that costs $40 to arrange is sold for $150 to $300. The casino, the spa, the specialty restaurants, the photos, the internet all run margins of 70 to 90% or more. This is why analysts call it a partial razor and blade model. The ship gets you aboard with competitive pricing. Once you are at sea for 7 days with no alternative for food, drinks, or entertainment, the line captures revenue at margins no land-based business could achieve. The most profitable passenger is not the one who paid the highest fare. It is the one who paid an average fare and then spent aggressively once aboard. Average net profit runs about $291 per passenger per cruise. On a ship carrying 5,000 passengers for 7 days, that is roughly $1.5 million per voyage. A mega ship running 50-plus voyages a year can clear $80 to $100 million in net profit against its $2 billion cost. Payback runs 15 to 20 years. The onboard economy is genuinely unique in modern commerce. For the length of the voyage, a cruise passenger is a captive customer. They cannot leave to find something cheaper. They cannot access competing services. They are on a ship surrounded by ocean, with no way to buy anything except through the cruise line. Every transaction runs through a cashless wristband or stateroom card tied to a credit card pre-authorized at check-in. This produces spending that would never happen on land. Passengers who would never pay $16 for a cocktail will pay it, because the alternative is no cocktail. People who would never pay $300 for an hour of snorkeling will pay it, because booking independently in port feels uncertain. They will pay $70 a day for slow internet because the ship is the only provider. The lines have studied this psychology for decades and built around it. Ship layouts funnel passengers through retail to reach amenities. Drink packages are sold at check-in, before anyone knows how much they will drink. The casino sits at the center of the ship. Excursions are pushed through stateroom television, daily guides, and booking events. The result is that onboard spending per passenger has climbed far faster than ticket prices. Norwegian's onboard spend reached about $127 per passenger per day in 2024, up roughly 30% from 5 years earlier. The onboard economy is where the industry's growth has happened. It also explains the luxury lines. Brands like Regent Seven Seas and Silversea bundle nearly everything into the ticket. No drink packages because drinks are included. No excursion charges because excursions are included. The fares are dramatically higher to compensate, which removes the captive customer dynamic that drives mass market profit. Mass market lines chase volume passengers who book cheap and spend heavily aboard. Luxury lines chase wealthy passengers who pay an all-inclusive premium up front. Both work on completely different economics, which is why the same parent companies own brands in both categories. There's one more piece of the ownership structure almost no passenger thinks about: the country the ship actually belongs to. Read the home port painted on the stern of nearly any major cruise ship. You will rarely see Miami, even though that is where the company is headquartered and where the ship departs. You will see Nassau in the Bahamas, or Panama City, or Monrovia, the capital of Liberia. The largest cruise companies register their ships and usually incorporate the entire parent company in small foreign jurisdictions. This is called sailing under a flag of convenience, and it is central to the economics. Carnival is incorporated in Panama, Royal Caribbean in Liberia, Norwegian in Bermuda. None are organized under United States corporate law, even though they are headquartered in Florida, listed in New York, and earn most of their revenue from American passengers. The reason is a single provision of the U.S. tax code. Section 883 exempts the income that foreign corporations earn from operating ships internationally from federal income tax. Because the major lines are structured as foreign corporations operating in international waters, almost none of their cruise income is taxed by the United States. Carnival has reported effective tax rates close to 1% for years. A company earning billions in profit pays a rate an ordinary worker would find impossible to believe. The flag also governs labor. A ship registered in the Bahamas or Panama follows that country's maritime labor rules, not American or European ones. Crews from dozens of countries work months-long contracts at international maritime wage levels, not the minimum wage of the departure port. Near zero corporate tax plus an international labor structure is a big part of why onboard margins are so extraordinary. So when you ask who really owns a cruise ship, the honest answer has 3 layers. A Florida headquarters runs it, a New York listing funds it, and a Panama, Liberia, or Bermuda registration shields it from the taxes and labor rules every land-based competitor has to live with. Even with 4 players dominating, cruise lines have failed in patterns that repeat across decades. The first is over-leveraging into bad cycles. The industry is exceptionally sensitive to discretionary spending, geopolitics, disease, and recession. Companies that order ships during booms can find themselves unable to service the debt when bookings collapse. COVID was the extreme case. Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and Norwegian all faced potential insolvency in 2020, when ships were grounded for over a year and survived only by raising massive emergency debt at high rates. The recovery split them apart. Royal Caribbean's stock is up 190% over 5 years through 2026. Carnival is down 7%. Norwegian is down 45%. Same crisis, very different balance sheets coming out of it. The second pattern is misreading the demographic. American style products that pushed into Asian markets in the 2010s largely failed, because those customers wanted different food, entertainment, and itineraries. European luxury brands that tried to enter the American mass market struggled for the same reason in reverse. The third is the niche operator who cannot scale. Independents that tried to fight the big 4 on Caribbean or Mediterranean routes almost always failed because they could not match the marketing, the agent commissions, or the onboard infrastructure. The market rewards scale ruthlessly. The fourth is the wrong ship for the wrong market. Cruise ships are inflexible assets. One built for Caribbean weekly cruises cannot easily move to Europe or Asia. When a target market weakens, the ship becomes a problem that takes years to resolve. And consolidation means most failures now end in acquisition rather than bankruptcy. When a smaller line struggles, one of the big 4 buys it. Norwegian acquired Oceania and Regent Seven Seas in 2014. Royal Caribbean acquired Silversea in 2018. There are essentially no independent targets left. Step back, and cruise is a clean example of capital intensity producing inevitable consolidation. When an industry requires individual assets that cost $1 billion or more, take 3 to 5 years to build, and are financed through specialized export credit structures only a few institutions provide, the number of companies that can participate is limited by capital, not by demand or competition. The same pattern shows up everywhere capital intensive. Commercial aircraft manufacturing is Boeing and Airbus because no one else can finance a new airliner. Container shipping consolidated into a handful of global lines. Oil refining is dominated by a few supermajors because refineries cost tens of billions. Cruise ships are just another version of this. The 4 global cruise companies survive because they have the balance sheets, the export credit relationships, the shipyard slots, and the operating scale to make the math work. A new entrant would need to commit $10 to $20 billion upfront to build a competitive fleet, and the financing simply does not exist for newcomers at that scale. This is regulated scarcity through capital structure, not licensing or geography. The Big 4 are not protected by government rules. They are protected by the fact that building a competitive fleet from scratch is functionally impossible to fund from private markets without the export credit relationships incumbents spent decades building. The result is one of the tightest oligopolies in consumer travel, 4 companies controlling nearly 80%. The rest split among niche operators in markets the Big 4 chose to skip. So let's actually run the numbers on owning a ship. You commission a new vessel in 2026 for delivery in 2029 or 30. Construction runs $1.5 billion for a mid-sized ship, $2 billion for a flagship. You finance 95% through export credit guaranteed loans at fixed rates of 3 to 5%, amortizing over 12 years. In service, it sails 50 to 60 voyages a year, carrying 3,500 to 7,000 passengers at occupancy often over 100% of nominal capacity, since lines book extra berths in cabins designed for two. Annual revenue per ship runs $300 to $600 million. Operating costs, crew, fuel, food, port fees, and maintenance run $250 to $400 million. Debt service runs $80 to $150 million. Net cash flow per ship lands around $50 to $100 million a year. Over a 30-year life, that is $1.5 to $3 billion in total return on a $1.5 to $2 billion investment. Positive but not extraordinary by capital markets standards. The industry's strength is not the return per ship. It is scale across a fleet of 30 to 70 ships, diversification across markets, and the marketing machine that fills every voyage. For a new entrant, the math is impossible. A fleet of even 5 competitive ships exceeds $10 billion. The operating build out another 10 to 20, and the export credit financing incumbents enjoy is unavailable without a track record. That is why the same 4 companies will keep dominating. The moat is the capital structure itself. So here is the whole mechanism in one sentence. A cruise ship is a $1 to $2 billion asset, financed through specialized export credit structures, registered under a foreign flag that shields it from tax, run as a captive onboard economy that converts ticket buyers into high-margin spenders, and owned by one of 4 global corporations that consolidated the industry through scale no new entrant can replicate. The ships are theater, the voyages are the cover story. The real business is the onboard economy, where the lines capture 80 to 90% margins on drinks, excursions, casino play, and services passengers cannot easily refuse once they are at sea. The ticket exists mainly to fill the ship. The profit happens aboard. The industry consolidated into 4 companies because the capital requirements made anything else mathematically impossible. The same way it happened in aircraft manufacturing, container shipping, and oil refining. Capital intensity at this scale automatically produces oligopoly. For the passenger, a cruise feels like buying a vacation. For the company, the passenger is someone entering a closed economic environment for 7 days, with every part of it designed to convert them from a boarded passengers into a spending one. The experience is real, but the economics are about extracting margin in a controlled space no land-based business can match, behind moats made of capital structure and tax geography rather than regulation, which is exactly why government policy cannot easily touch them. If you want to understand how the businesses that quietly run modern markets actually work, the ones that turn billion-dollar assets into captive customer economies and extract margins no land-based competitor could match, subscribe to Terminal Wealth. We break down the businesses hiding in plain sight, one industry at a time,